Hello everyone, hello Dawn.
Hello. Lo-
This is our first JDTV interview for our In Charlie's Memory documentary. And I'd just like to thank you all for taking the time to come and talk to us, and especially thank you to you, Dawn. I'm sure it'll be really interesting to listen to your insight about our questions and any advice that you have to give us. But before we ask you a few of our questions, would you be able to tell us a little bit about In Charlie's Memory and what you do as your role?
So I'm the operations manager in Charlie's Memory. So my main role is to keep the organisation going, really, and it's very, very varied. One day I can be in front of the clinical commissioning group of North Somerset. One day I can be doing an assembly at King Alfred's, and one day I'm dressed as a clown walking around Burnham Carnival shaking a tin. So this job it's one of the hardest jobs I've ever had, but it is one of the most rewarding jobs I've ever had, and it is very, very varied. So In Charlie's Memory came about 5 years ago. Sadly, at the age of 18, Charlie took his life. And initially, Joe, our founder, his mum, just wanted to raise awareness of young people and mental health, because there was such a stigma back then. I do think we're making great steps to reduce the stigma. I still think we've got a long way to go. And very quickly, so we had, within a couple of months, over 30,000 followers on the In Charlie's Memory Facebook page. And we were getting stories from everywhere across the whole world. People wanted to share their story of their young person, their son, their daughter, their brother, their sister. And so Joe set on a mission to raise awareness in schools, and she'd done lots and lots of interviews with newspapers, radio, television. Really, she'd done it at a time when she should have been grieving, but she was a woman on a mission. And then bit by bit, we started going into the counselling side of things. And Charlie was a student at King Alfred's, a lovable rogue. Every teacher you meet has got a good story and a bad story, but the one thing that Charlie had is character. You certainly knew when Charlie was in a classroom. And we took on board the student side of it. So we then decided that we were going to allow student counsellors to come to In Charlie's Memory and have a placement with us. It's so important, education, whatever age you are, you're always going to find yourself learning new things. And because we were a relatively new charity, we really wanted to welcome other people's ideas and thoughts on what we could do. And it was also very important that we had an impact of children on what we were offering. So I say this all the time. I think I'm really cool for somebody that's going to be 45 next birthday. But then I've got amazing ambassadors that tell me I'm not cool and my ideas aren't always great. And you know what? That is so important. You cannot run a young person's charity without having the impact of young people, the good, the bad, and the ugly side of it. So we started working with student counsellors, and year by year we grew, and we became recognised for the hard work that we do. So what makes us different to other charities is we don't cap our sessions. Now, what I mean by that is if you were going to go to other counsellors, they might say, right, we've got 6 weeks. And for us, that didn't really work. We all know that young men are the absolute worst at talking. So for young men, it might take 6 weeks to feel relaxed enough that they can share how they're feeling with the counsellor. So we don't cap our sessions. Somebody is seen for as long as they want to be seen. We are really proud of the student counsellors that come and work with us. We've had counsellors come from Cardiff, Bristol, Exeter, Plymouth. They come from all over to have a placement with us. And we've got an amazing team of ambassadors and volunteers that help and support us.
Following on from that, is there any ways that during this period you would advise all different age groups to keep their mental health positive and not kind of stray away from that?
The first thing I would say is communication. Because what's happened right now is you guys have lost your teachers who you would speak to on a daily basis. You've lost that routine. And, I'm a parent. I get stressed and I have my bad days. And the one thing I do is I check in with my kids. You all right? Yeah, I'm all right, Mum. Stop asking me. But not all parents do that, and it's so important for you guys to say to mum, dad, brother, sister, drop it in an email to one of your teachers, because I'm absolutely sure they would welcome that email to say, do you know what, today's a bad day, because so many of you are having days like that, and it's okay. It doesn't mean you have mental health problems. It doesn't mean you're on a downward spiral. It just means that today, right now, it is a bad day for you guys. So that's number one. That's the first thing I would definitely say. Number two, I'm going to sound really boring. Exercise. You know, there's a phrase that I grew up with: get outside and clear the cobwebs. And is it that a phrase you guys have heard?
Oh yeah, I have heard that phrase.
I thought I was really showing my age then. Okay. It's so true. You know, when we're stuck inside, everything can feel really quite claustrophobic, and you know, the clock suddenly becomes annoying. Dad, mum, channel hopping becomes annoying, and that's the time to go, do you know what, I just need a little bit of time out. You don't even have to have a dog to go for a walk. Put some music on. Don't set a timer, don't set your goals, just walk. And I absolutely promise you, you will come back feeling better. I think, and I think it's great that we've got Neville here with us. The other thing I would say is, don't put pressure on yourselves. Do what you can when you can. Set yourself a little target every day with your schoolwork. If you're struggling, reach out to your teachers, but don't beat yourself up, you know, because tomorrow's going to be a better day and you might be able to do a little bit more. Does that help?
Sorry, carry on. What were you saying?
I said, was that helpful?
Oh, sorry. Yes, yeah, definitely. A lot of what you were saying there is actually, we were discussing a bit earlier, all the stuff that we're doing at home at the moment, and that actually links in with a few of the things that we're doing to keep our mental health positive. But going from that again, how are you helping the people that you were counselling before, now that you can't have that face-to-face contact?
So this has actually been a real problem, a massive problem. What we found is young people don't want to engage in Zoom. And I think there are lots of issues surrounding Zoom. Confidence. I think not everybody likes seeing themselves. I think confidentiality is key. You know, you might be locked up in your bedroom, but you can't guarantee your brother or your sister is not listening at the door. And I think with the office, with the counselling rooms that we have, it becomes a very much a safe space. So we found it quite hard to engage. Now, prior to lockdown, if you include the young people we were supporting at the drop-in clinics that we run, we were looking after 60 plus young people a week. So what we've done is, on a Thursday, I've got an amazing team of volunteers that are still happy to come into the office. And literally the week before lockdown, we had a number of new telephones installed so we can maintain social distance. So what we're doing is we're running a telephone line, and it's from 10 a.m. until 2 p.m. It's not counselling, but it's just having that opportunity to speak to somebody, to have a rant, pour your heart out, have a cry if you want to, you know, and just have the opportunity to sound off to somebody else. But what we can do from that is we can then signpost, because there are other amazing organisations in Somerset that are still able to do some work. So we're able to signpost to them. It has been, for the charity itself, lockdown has been really, really difficult, because, as Neville was like, there are no rules. There is nothing black and white. There's no right, there's no wrong. Every single day, behind the scenes, we are, your teachers, are looking at what's happening, seeing what they can change, what they can't change, trying to find out what's working, and what's not working. And counselling works better face to face, because you're dealing with the whole person. So, you know, you can't necessarily see if I'm smiling. You can't necessarily see what I'm feeling, you know, but this says a lot. So when you're counselling somebody, you're looking at eyes, you're looking at mouth, you're looking at body language, posture. So getting back to face is really important. So going forward, I've been in talks with Mr. Jenkins, who has been absolutely wonderful. And this, ladies and gents, is going to be a little bit of a scoop for you. We are going to take over King Alfred Sixth Form block, and we are going to recall, not everybody, because not everybody wants it. I've got a handful of counsellors that want to do face-to-face, and I've got a handful of clients that want to do face-to-face. So what we're going to do, we've got some PPE equipment on order, we've got some screens being made, and we're going to start counselling. We're kind of prioritising the young people that really, really, really need it right now. You know, I'm not talking about somebody that was just coming along. There's different levels. You've got young people that cope and value the support of a counsellor, but you've got young people that really need that counselling. So we're going to prioritise the young people that really need it. And as soon as we've got the PPE, that's going to be up and running. So I'm really, really happy, because not only have we got all the young people we were seeing, we've got all the young people we had on a waiting list, and we're now starting to get the emails from parents telling us how their young people are struggling. So it is important we get face-to-face counselling up and running in a safe way for everybody.
Yeah, that sounds amazing. I hope that does go ahead, because I know a lot of people would benefit a lot from that. Me and Jack are actually peer listeners at school. We took, how many courses was it we did?
I think it was about 3 weeks. No.
Yeah, about 3-4 weeks, I'd say.
Yeah.
We did an hour course every night, and then we were training a bit to be able to talk to people and let people kind of talk to us. But a lot of what we learned was quite beneficial to help ourselves as well. So that, I think, talking to you, if at some point, it's just an idea off the top of my head, but at some point, if our group could talk to you, because a lot of what you're saying would definitely help us be able to talk to other people as well and spread.
And I think a lot of what you say would benefit us, because, you know, the one thing about In Charlie's Memory, and I cannot reiterate this enough, the reason we do as well as we do is because we take on board what other people say. I am not the fountain of knowledge, you know. I got this role because my role grew and grew and grew and grew and grew within the charity. And the opinion of young people is so valuable, because, as I said, you know, I would relish your feedback as to how you're getting on with the peer listening and how many calls you're getting, because counselling has to change going forward. We have to find ways to adapt. Now, the one thing that is really good to come out of this, because I'm glass half full, however some awful something is, you're always going to find something positive in it. And for me, Zoom will work for those young people that are so anxious they can't even get out of their bedroom. Zoom will work for those young people who are really struggling with disability. And, you know, we've trialled it, so it's not something we're going to get rid of going forward. It's something that's now always going to be a part of counselling. So everything's a constant learning curve. So I would absolutely love that chat with you guys to see how you've got on.
Yeah, that would be amazing if we could set that up sometime in the future.
Yeah, definitely. You're welcome. When all this is over, you're welcome to come to the office and check out our counselling rooms and see what actually happens, because we are not clinical at all. Sometimes it looks like you're walking into a toy room, because we allow people to bring in all sorts. We even have clients come in with their dogs because they feel more secure having a dog. And we all know about Jeffrey. And we all know the benefits of Jeffrey that he brings. He's down. So yeah, we have sand trays, we have different lighting, we have colouring, whiteboards. But so yeah, come and check out our rooms, because everybody hears so much about In Charlie's Memory, but to actually come in and see it would be good for you, I think.
Yeah, that would be really good. I'm actually going to hand over to Jack now as well to ask his question.
Hi, it's lovely to meet you for the first time, although not face to face. Good, thank you. I hope you're well. So I think linking back to a point you talked to when you were talking to Olivia, you said don't put too much pressure on yourself. I at school, I have quite a big active role. I do a lot of stuff, but I feel a lot of pressure. How do you have any tips on how students can relieve pressure on themselves?
I think there's so much to be said for physical exercise, and there's a lot of information that can come out of COVID. So one of the things that I'm keen to find out is how young men in particular have been managing, because whilst a lot of young men won't admit that they're struggling, they take their release from football and rugby and cricket and five-a-side, and they're not having that. But I think the one thing, and a lot of adults don't do it, but somebody that runs a mental health organisation, I would tell everybody, just stop and take 5 minutes, because I'm actually learning to teach mindfulness during this, so I can come back and deliver it to you guys at the drop-in clinics and stuff like that. There's something to be said, stepping out of the situation and taking a breath. And I know we actually sometimes feel a little bit silly for doing that, but has anybody shown you how it works when you take a deep breath and the effects it has on your pulse? Jack, has anybody shown you that? No. Okay, right. This is my nursing side coming into it now, or my previous life. When you're getting really stressed and you feel under pressure and you're feeling anxious, you get a very physical reaction and your heart will start racing. And then everything gets a little bit overwhelming and you're like, you're at that point. I can't cope. I can't do any more homework. If you step back, shut the laptop, do whatever in the room, step out of the room, and you start doing some really long, slow, deep breaths, if you put your fingers on your pulse, you will physically feel your pulse slow down. And it is as simple as breathing in through the nose. So, right, come on, guys, do it all with me. Don't make me be the only silly person as you breathe in. Right, okay, so keep your feet on the floor. And I want you to go in through your nose. Hold it for the count of 3. And really slowly blow it out. And keep blowing until you can't blow anymore. Focus on the noise. Focus on the feeling of the breath on your top lip. And if you want to, find your pulse and feel your pulse as you're doing it. So it's in through your nose. And I promise you that works. Just do that for a couple of minutes and it will just get everything back to normal. It will get you grounded again. And then you can go back and revisit the situation. But take 5 minutes.
That's really good advice. I don't think I would have ever thought of that. It wouldn't have I wouldn't have thought to just take a step back from it. But I also wanted to know, with mental health, because we're now spending a lot of time away from contact, do you think when we're reintroduced to that, we'll see people be more open because they realise how valuable that contact is?
I think a lot of good can be taken out of this. And as I said earlier, I'm glass half full. And I really hope every single day that when our new normal starts, people remember. I got quite frustrated. Oh, that breathing technique is really good if you get angry as well. Okay, so just take a step back from that one. And I remember tweeting the other day saying it wasn't so long ago #BeKind was trending. And we're really quick at forgetting. And I think it's guys like yourselves, organisations that like ICM, that will remind people, that will say, hold on a minute, guys. Remember how much you needed the human touch. Remember how much you wanted to see each other. Not doom and gloom. I'm extremely concerned for mental health and the implications of lockdown. But hopefully, when we get out of this, people are going to have the courage to ask for help. And it's that key again, talking, and asking for help and support when you need it. Is that your question?
Yeah, that's really good. Thank you. So I think we've all prepared 1 or 2 tips of how we're sort of coping with the pandemic. And so my first one would be spend some time away from technology, because in my opinion, it's just sitting there on social media all day isn't very good for me, and I find myself overthinking things then, and thinking, and also I was talking to Olivia, and she suggested, because I struggle with sleep, and lately it's been harder because I've been more stressed away from school, and to meditate, and that's really been helpful. And I think that links back to your mindfulness sort of idea. Yeah,
definitely. I think you are so right about social media. I mean, every day I'm thankful I didn't have social media when I was younger. But social media is an absolute blessing and a curse. And the thing that we forget, it's not real. People do not post their worst picture. They do not post their bad days. You know, to get that perfect selfie takes about 50 to 100 pictures, you know. So I would say you are so spot on, is step away from social media, because somewhere in your house there's living, breathing people that will engage in a conversation with you. So you just put down the phone and try it.
Yeah, thank you. I'll pass over to Olivia for her tips, and then we'll go to Amy for her questions, I think. Olivia?
Yeah, I've been reading for half an hour every day because I find it helps my brain keep ticking over. And I actually read something the other day, and it was saying that if you read for 5 minutes a day, it's meant to connect up different parts of your brain, and it's meant to help with your mental health and things. So I've been doing that, and I've also been doing a 5-minute exercise routine every morning. I go on my trampoline, which is all low impact and everything, and I just bounce gently for 5 minutes, and it's meant to apparently relieve all the toxins in your body. And in the morning, just doing that's apparently meant to help too. And me and my little sister have actually been growing some tomato plants in our back garden. So when we see a tomato come through every now and then, it's actually quite. Yeah. However, I've never been able to garden in the past because snails always eat my plants I grow. No matter what, it's always my plants. My sister's plants always go really well, but mine always get eaten.
Okay, I don't know how true this is, but I have heard eggshells. I don't know if anybody else, yeah? Put some eggshells. I think what you're doing is brilliant, Olivia, and the trampoline's really good because when we exercise, our body releases natural endorphins. So it's like the happy hormone, we say. So, you know, that's a really, really good tip. And exercise doesn't have to be an hour long at the gym. That 5 minutes, short, sharp burster exercise, brilliant. Absolutely brilliant.
Amy, sorry, do you want to go on to yours now?
Yeah. So leading on from everyone else's positive tips, I definitely think, Dawn, what you've said about letting your emotions out and just having like a cry, I think that's a really good kind of, not tip, but it's quite a basic kind of thing that you need to just make you feel better, because when you're bottling stuff all up, it just feels so good just to let it out finally. Also, I think just thinking that this isn't going to last forever, because that's what's really, really been helping me, because what's been getting me is that, like, I'm thinking, oh, this is never going to end, lockdown's never going to finish, never going to ever see my friends again. But I think it would really help if everyone just thinks, no, eventually, however long it takes, it will get back to normal. Yeah. There's definitely light at the end of the tunnel. And speaking to your friends and family on a daily basis is a really kind of good thing to boost your spirits.
Are you guys doing the Zoom quizzes?
Yes.
Oh,
so many.
Yeah. So I heard something the other day, and it was VE weekend, and it really resonated with me because my grandfather was in Arnhem, so you know he had a significant role in the war, and I was watching all the stuff and doing a little bit on social media, and somebody tweeted saying, "Our soldiers went to fight for their lives. We've been asked to sit on the sofa." And when you put it into context like that, you know, we're going to get through this. It's going to be one day at a time. We are going to come out of this. There's going to be a new normal. And what a story to tell our grandchildren. You know, we had to stay in for 3 months. When I was young, children's telly ended at 5 o'clock in the afternoon. So you guys are so lucky. But crying, laughing, getting angry, just letting off steam, whatever that emotion you're feeling, let it go. Just seriously do it. However you're feeling right now, you won't feel tomorrow. So for me, I I like joss sticks and play spa music.
Yeah.
I had the privilege of traveling to Thailand, and the calmest place I have ever been in the world is a Buddhist temple, and they like joss sticks, and you've got all this music, and just for 10 minutes, I am back in Thailand until somebody goes, "Mom," or the dog starts barking. But we all find our own little way of dealing with it. But you three, you guys are nailing it. Your tips are absolutely brilliant.
Yeah, I think it's definitely been good talking on Zoom calls, because you're getting a lot of other people's opinions on what to do, and it's quite nice just having other tips from other people. But leading away from the tips and things, I want to get back on track to maybe Olivia mentioned this kind of project of maybe getting the BBC involved. So I emailed Mr. Dean and kind of pitched an idea that I think I've talked to you before, Dawn, about I'd really like to create a project or a piece on mental health and how In Charlie's Memory is really helping that. So I kind of like to ask my question more based on the project side of it. So I was wondering, are you seeing great results since starting In Charlie's Memory in children and students and everyone? Are you seeing really good results from it?
Yeah, so we've got something called PHQ-9s and GAD-7s. And what they are is they're a questionnaire that we give to every young person that comes through the door. And they complete this as part of their counselling journey. And we know it works. We know it works a couple of times. We know it works when they don't want to see us anymore. We know it works when they've got nothing to talk about. And we have that feedback from them to know that it works. But for us, the most important thing, and this is something that will never, ever, ever change within Charlie's Memory as long as I'm in charge, we won't say no to someone. We can't always help people that are at that end of the spectrum. So somebody that's having a full psychotic episode, for example, or needs medication, we wouldn't be able to support them. But I will never say no to somebody at that end. So it doesn't matter whether you've been diagnosed with anxiety. It doesn't matter whether mum and dad are divorcing and you just need a little bit of support. If you want to be seen, you will be seen. There is no criteria to be seen in Charlie's Memory. And what that means, and I love this little phrase, we get to the kids before the kids get to crisis. Because we don't want any more Charlies. I don't want anybody to suffer with their mental health throughout their whole adolescence and see suicide as their only option. So as long as I'm in charge, I will see every young person that knocks on our door, sends me an email or rings the phone. And I think this is why we're seeing the success that we see, because we're not trying to pick somebody up that's so broken. We're trying to give somebody tips and help build their resilience so that further down the line, when they are struggling, they've already learnt the coping techniques. They've already learnt what they can do to support themselves and help themselves. The growth of In Charlie's Memory shows you how important this organisation has been. The numbers that we're dealing with, I mean, all being well, at the end of the year, I'm going to have 25 counsellors. And the fact that In Charlie's Memory is now invited to places, so North Somerset Council speak to us, CAM sends young people our way, which is Child and Adolescent Mental Health Services. Doctors refer straight to In Charlie's Memory. We've always got students that are desperate to come and have a placement with us. So that shows you that we're getting it right. And from what it is now to what it was 5 years ago, it's completely different. Sorry, does that answer your question? I do.
Yeah, it does, definitely. Yeah, perfect. So obviously you'd like to reach more people, as many people as you possibly can. So how many centres do you really want to put out there, or how many kind of, centres would you like to get across North Somerset?
Oh my goodness, do you know what? It would be my dream to have ICM pop-ups everywhere, absolutely everywhere. It doesn't take an awful lot to get a counsellor. So we don't do lone working. So when I talk about students, guys, they've already been going through the counselling training for 3 years. So when they come to us, they're not completely new. They just now need to start getting their hours. So if you were in a first year, you wouldn't work with under 18s. If you're in your final year, we would allow you to work with 18s. So I don't want people to think I'm taking 15-year-olds on work experience and getting them counselling, because it's definitely not like that. But the only thing that stops me setting up these centres is the money. The truth is, I found quite a lot in the last 5 years is when it comes to funding, people don't want to pay for core costs. So core costs are wages, rent, telephone bills, internet bills, things like that. People like a project. And projects are great, but it takes away from our fundamental core aim, which was to support the young people. If we were granted an awful lot of money tomorrow, I promise you there would be pop-ups all over Somerset, because we know what we do works. So I've got no need to reinvent the wheel. I take a counsellor, I take a student, so there's no lone working. I put them in a safe space, I give them a diary, you're good to go.
That's brilliant. So have you, obviously this is for everyone, this is quite a stressful or anxious time, but have you seen quite a dramatic increase in the need for In Charlie's Memory in these times?
Not yet. So when we shut down, we notified every single client, and we notified every single client on the waiting list what was happening, and we review it monthly. And literally for the first 8 weeks, the phone didn't ring. We went back into the office and there was no answer phone messages, there was no emails, there was nothing. But what we've noticed in the last 2 weeks is it's starting to come back. We're starting to get the emails now asking when we're going to do face-to-face. We're starting to get new inquiries now. Because I think you guys have every single year, you guys have 6 weeks off. So actually, that's okay. You can cope with that initial 6 weeks. But now we're not seeing the end. Now it's really impacting on A-levels and GCSEs and universities. Now we're starting to see the anxiety levels increase. And I imagine by the end of this year, we will have a 50% increase on our numbers of young people that are already engaging with ICM.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's going to get worse before it gets better.
Yeah, that's totally understandable. The people just, because 6 weeks, because when we first started, it was quite kind of, this only lasts for a few weeks. Everyone was saying by June we'll be out of it, it'll be fine, we're getting back to normal. But now that it's kind of lasted longer than that, everyone's kind of thinking, will this ever end?
Exactly.
So
I mean, I think that there's no answer at the moment. And the one thing we all dislike is uncertainty. You know, prior to lockdown, I was manic. I was working every day, all day. I got elected as a town councillor last year, so I was doing town council business as well. And honestly, I've struggled having time on my hands. And I am so much more organised when I'm busy. You know, because when you're busy, there isn't tomorrow. You just have to crack on with it. But and I'm an adult, you know, so for every single one of us, we're going to have highs and lows. Mental health, our whole life is going to be a ripple. You're going to have good months and you're going to have bad months. And we're starting to see this in lockdown now. People had the initial, 6 weeks off school, don't have to do anything. But now it's like, oh, but I miss school and I miss my friends and I like having structure. And let's face it, us parents aren't the best at homeschooling, are we? Don't quote me on that, guys, okay?
So I think we are done. I really want to say thank you for joining us today. It's been really helpful, and I'm so glad this is really starting to happen,